What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and today I'm going to be doing my 1000 subscriber Q&A video because I did say that I wanted to do one, and I actually got a decent amount of questions on a community post that I put a while back, so it's finally time that I actually got around to that. So I guess I'll just get right into the questions because that's the whole reason you guys are here. Now, I might as well answer this question because I get these a lot, and it's not even just for the Q&A video. My regular videos get this too. Will you review Tekken the Power of Juju? Will you review Bayonetta 1 and 2 anytime soon? Where's my Barnyard review? So, basically, when it comes down to taking requests, right? A good amount of the time, it'll be difficult for me to do that for a variety of reasons. One, I don't really know which game to do first because, for some odd reason, everyone asks for an individual game. There's never really been too many repeats when it comes to any of the requests that I get. Everyone just asks for something individually, which is odd. I don't know how no one has managed to duplicate their request, but it's weird having to try and please everyone. But I'll try and get to some games, but there again are other factors. For one, there's in terms of having some of the games. I do have some of these games that you guys request, but in terms of other games, they're either a lot harder to find physically or they're harder for me to record in terms of like emulation. Because some games, though it is really rare, are like PS2 exclusives, and I don't exactly have the strongest computer, so I can like almost barely run the PS2 emulator as it is. Trying to record on top of that would probably blow my PC up, and that is what I have a physical PS2 for. But again, finding the game physically is a little bit difficult. But again, it depends on what game it is. And then it also depends on if I already have things planned, because if I do, it'll either take 2 weeks or beyond that before you guys would actually get the game that you requested, which does suck because, again, I'd be working on videos already as it is, and if I already have something planned in the future like I do for Under Night right now, then it's like, it could be held back even further than that. Then it's just weird in terms of like getting the request, if I even have the game or not, trying to find the game, and then finding the time to play it and review it and get it out to you guys. Now, that does not mean that I'm not open to requests. I am open to take a request, but at the same time, it just takes a little bit of time to actually do them. And also, in terms of Bayonetta, I'm really hoping that Bayonetta 3 is still a thing, because we haven't heard anything from Bayonetta 3 since, like, what was it, 2017, if I'm correct? I could still be wrong on that. It could be even earlier than that, but I really need something from Bayonetta 3, dog. And again, it would just take time for me to try and review the games, but again, I'm very open to requests. And since one of these also had like a second question tied to it, I guess I can answer that. How does it feel to finally reach 1K, and what's the plan from here? It feels really, really good, and that's mainly because I've been working on doing these videos for 4 years, not the review videos, but in terms of just doing YouTube videos in general. I've been doing this stuff for 4 years, coming closer and closer to 5 years, and to see my hard work pay off, especially with the change of content, it is really, really good that it's working out the way that it is. And as I said, I'll still miss being a Let's Player because that's how I grew halfway to 1K. That's so ingrained in my growth that is like impossible for me to not acknowledge it. And I also worked so hard on the Let's Plays as well, to the point where, again, it's not like I can't acknowledge that I was a Let's Player at one point, but it does feel really good to be at 1K. I can finally be a part of the 1K gang, especially when everyone has conversations about that, and I can only just sit there in silence like I always do. But now I don't have to worry about that. But the plan for here, just kind of continue doing what I'm doing. It's been working so far, so I don't think I really need to change too much in terms of my content for right now. I do have an idea of what I want to do for online computer games on like Cartoon Network websites or junk like that, and I've also told like a few people about that already, but I need to work out the kinks in that, and I also need to actually like start doing it. And I'll also try and see if it's worth it to do modern game reviews, which is why I'm starting off with Under Night in August, and hoping that the views for that are pretty good. A good amount of people said that they would watch me do modern game reviews as well, so that would be nice, and I'm just hoping that the substantial views in comparison to like my license-based game reviews do about as well. But for right now, it's kind of just doing what I've normally been doing, adding a few modern games here and there, but other than that, not too much is going to change in the very near future. Do you like anime, and if so, which one is your favorite? So this is going to be a very weird answer because yes, I do like anime, but I don't really watch it. Now, before you blow me up in the comments because of that, it's not like I'm completely oblivious to anime. I know about Dragon Ball. A lot of people know about Dragon Ball. It's the most basic anime there is. I know some things of Naruto, some things of One Piece. I've been watching a good amount of Bleach lately. I've watched My Hero, I've watched JoJo, I've seen some of Soul Eater. I'm basically sprinkled around in a bunch of animes, but I haven't really finished any of them. Because for me, since I don't have cable, I'm not able to watch anime every single week, and I also don't feel like paying for any actual service. So I usually just binge a lot of anime, and the issue is, and this also applies to some video games as well, is that when I'm binging anime, if I just stop and don't go back to it after a while, I just won't touch it again. That has happened with My Hero, that has happened with JoJo so far. I'm trying to refrain from doing that with Bleach because I plan on doing video game reviews for Bleach at some point. I don't know when, but at some point. And I like actually watching the source material. That way I know what I'm talking about when I do the game review for them. And case in point being Generator Rex. I knew nothing about Generator Rex before I did the game. Then I watched the entire series for it, and then I played the game. So again, choosing my favorite one is going to be really, really hard to do. But I guess in terms of the ones that I have binged a good amount, I would say My Hero and JoJo. Those are probably my favorite as of right now. And the reason why I even know that much about anime and the general happenings of anime is because of my friends and how connected I am to them and how connected they are to anime and how often they talk about it. And I'll just sit in silence as I always do. And I'll just hear them talk about anime. That's why I know about Fire Force and Dr. Stone and all that. But again, there's not much else that I can really say. Again, I like anime, I respect everything anime does, but I just don't watch it. I'm not a religious watcher of anime. What is your favorite Kingdom Hearts games in the series? I don't know if that's supposed to say just one Kingdom Hearts game or if it's just games period. That's also because the comment is edited, but I'm going to go with games because I can't really give my absolute favorite as of right now. The contenders for number one are definitely KH2 and KH3, both for different reasons. I could in general just still be on a nostalgia high or even in denial, but maybe, just maybe, I like KH3 more than 2. The reason why I say maybe is because I want to go back to Kingdom Hearts 2 post Kingdom Hearts 3, because if you were to ask me what my favorite was before 3, I would 100% have said 2, no hesitation. But now I have this game that I've been anticipating so much, so I want to go back to the other games and go through those again, and those would end up being reviews, by the way, and seeing if my opinions on any of the past games have changed a lot, if at all. And that way I'm also able to get a more defined explanation of my opinions, which is kind of what the review videos are supposed to do in a way. I give an opinion about something that I feel is worth mentioning in the game, and then I explain my reasoning behind why I feel that way or why something shouldn't be a certain way. But again, the contenders for my absolute favorite are 2 and 3, and then after that would have to be KH1. But again, as I said, that could easily change. What is the hardest video to edit and or script, and how did you make it easier to deal with? Okay, so that's a really good question, and I can't narrow it down to just one experience because I've had a good amount of experiences when it comes to doing some of these games. So I guess I can give a good amount of experiences. So for Eda and Eddie, as that's the one that comes to mind the most, when it came to that review, I had to do that entire review in 3 days. I have to do everything for that review in 3 days. And the reason why was because the 20th anniversary for Eda and Eddie was coming up, and I didn't want to actually be late for that. So of course, I was trying to record on my PC, but that wasn't working because for some reason, Eda and Eddie takes so much usage on your PC just for playing it alone, and trying to record on top of that made it run like absolute trash. And then also the sky was darker than it normally should be for some reason. I didn't know how to fix that either. So even if I could record it on my PC, it still would have been weird. So I spent a lot of time trying to see if I could play GameCube games on my Wii U through emulation, and I finally managed to get it to work. So at that point, I had to record the entire game in a day, but that was only 3 hours, so that wasn't too bad. Then I had to script everything for that review. Then I had to voice it. Again, the voicing isn't too bad. It's just the editing of the audio that's a little bit annoying because I tend to mess up a good amount of the time, and that time adds up from like the raw audio to like the edited audio could easily be an extra 10 minutes or something like that, depending on how long the video actually is. And then I had to edit the entire review and then post it, obviously. So in terms of like a general time crunch, that one was pretty intensive because of course I had to do everything in 3 days. Aside from the transition slides, I did those like really early on because I knew for a fact I was going to review that game at some point, but everything else I had to spend a good amount of time doing. Luckily for me, I was not in college at the time because I was on winter break, so I had a good amount of time to actually just sit down and work on it. Now, another example would have to be Kingdom Hearts 3 because that was the first time I had to do a review that was a half-hour long, and it was a lot that I had to work with. And the main reason why was because of the gameplay segment. There's so much that I had to talk about in Kingdom Hearts 3 in terms of gameplay that it takes up a good amount of the review. And so many things just intertwine with each other, so having to find out how to explain them in an accurate way was a little bit weird, because if I end up explaining the gameplay poorly, then some points that I make later on might not make a lot of sense. And then of course, editing took a long time because it was a half-hour review. And then I also had to make a few jokes here and there when it came to the review. Collabs in general just take a lot of time because both me and whoever I'm collabing with have to play the entire game so that we both have our full opinions already in our minds. And then I usually do the typing up of the script and then I'll assign a part to them or whatever, and then they'll just like read over their part or even the entire script and see if they agree on anything. And then sometimes they can add stuff to it that they feel is worth mentioning. But so far, we haven't had any form of disagreements on certain things, so that's pretty good. For Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, I actually came very close to having to require a workaround for having the audio for that game, because similar to Nerf Instrike, when I was playing through the game, I noticed that there was no OST uploaded online that I could just take from the internet and use for the video. So what I did was that I just stood in place and just let the sound play, and I would have to like edit that and put that in. But literally minutes or something like that before I started editing anything, someone had uploaded the entire OST to YouTube, and I was so grateful that they did that because they made my job so much easier. And then I guess I can talk about jokes and like the good amount of jokes that I have within all of my review videos. Thinking of good jokes either comes instantly or like it takes a while for it to develop, because there are some times where I'm like, is there a way for me to make this funny? And then if I do think of it, it's usually instantly. And then sometimes I just have to make self-aware jokes because I do that a good amount of times in my videos, whether it be how long it takes me to explain something in my script or just in general when it comes to my channel. So self-aware jokes are pretty good for just being a cop-out joke. And then for lore, again, that also takes some time, which is why there's also a little bit of quote-unquote filler reviews where there isn't actually any lore and it's just a meme at the beginning of the video. But in terms of the lore, again, that also just comes with time, and then some of it has a good amount of inspiration. Like I've taken a good amount of inspiration from Kingdom Hearts, and then I also had to use Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension to introduce the multi-dimensional universe that I've created. And I even had my April Fool video be like a really subtle hint that would not make any form of sense until that review video came out. And I absolutely love doing that. And it seems like everyone loves the lore as well. No one has really said anything bad about it, which is kind of surprising. And I'm also wanting to make sure everything makes sense, and so far everything has, which is good. And in the future, it should also make sense then. But for right now, I just kind of just keep thinking of stuff. Now, in terms of making it easier to deal with, it's kind of difficult because there is usually a lot of pages, like usually 7 to 8 pages. That's like the average when it comes to my videos. But what I usually do is that I'll usually leave the gameplay segment for last, because the gameplay segment is usually just a lot of factual stuff. I don't really put opinions much in that portion when it comes to the others. Like even the final verdict, I managed to do that one before the gameplay segment sometimes because, again, it's just a lot of facts when it comes to the gameplay segment, which makes it a little bit more boring to type up sometimes, which is why having jokes in those gameplay segments help, and having my opinions on everything else, including like story and presentation, and then the good, bad, and ugly are already self-explained. And while I'm playing through the game, most of the time, aside from like the Game Boy Advance games, because I play those on my PC and I'm not able to do both at the same time unless it's on my phone or something like that, but while I'm playing through the game, I'll take down like little notes on things that I don't really like too much or like a lot. I'll just write down bullet points like just mention this, and then under that I have like my explanation of why that should be included or something like that, or a joke that I could place with that, and then I expand upon that bullet point a lot more. So just organization of things helps out a lot when it comes to doing the review videos, because I like having a set order to things. I like having a flow when it comes to my videos. And another thing that I also do is that I take a good amount of inspiration from like other content creators. Like Mr. Gigi is one of my favorite YouTubers, honestly, and a good amount of his jokes are probably the reason why I'm able to supply as many jokes as I do. Of course, his jokes are still leagues better than mine, but I will say that that is a bit of inspiration. And he also does like movie reviews, which is, I guess, a somewhat similar realm of what I do, and why I'm able to have some inspiration from him. But even the videos that aren't reviews from him are still really good. But oh boy, that question actually took a good amount of time, but I'm fine with that. Okay, this is kind of gonna just be wrapped up in two. So, who's your absolute favorite character from a video game, and who's better, Roxas or Komaeda? That being Nagito Komaeda for those who are unaware. So for the absolute favorite character, it's either Roxas or Nagito, so that kind of answers that. But goodness, in terms of which one I like more is really difficult, which is amazing given that my avatar is, you know, Nagito. But I like them both for separate reasons, and I like dividing characters and seeing how they work in two different categories. Like as a character, as in someone who plays a role within a story and how effectively they play that role in that story, Nagito takes Roxas over by 5 miles, like Nagito all the way. But in terms of as a person, as in how I would react to them if I saw them in real life or something like that, I would not want to be caught dead or alive in the same room as Nagito. So Roxas 100% wins in that department. But I guess I have to go off of me knowing Roxas longer, so I'll go off of Roxas. And also I don't know everything about Danganronpa, I only know up to Danganronpa 2. So that could easily change if I go further on with Despair Girls and V3. But as of right now, Roxas would be my favorite. Now, what popular license-based game have you not played? That's a good question because I don't really know which ones are immensely popular. It's kind of hard to find a community that just plays license-based games and has their opinions on it, which is kind of the reason I'm doing these. You don't really see too many people doing that. But I don't really play many of the Marvel or DC games. I finished Spider-Man PS4 recently, really good game. But again, I just don't really play too many Marvel or DC games. That's including the Batman games. I've hardly played any of the Batman games at all. So I guess that's probably the most popular license-based game that I haven't played. There's also South Park, but I don't watch South Park enough to feel like I would actually appreciate a lot of things that it does. And I just don't have an interest in the game anyway, so there's that. But in terms of like the most obvious ones, DC and Marvel are probably the games that I've played the least amount of. But that would have to be all of the questions that are listed. So again, I got a good amount of questions, and if you guys want me to do another Q&A video, I'm 100% willing to. That way you guys can find out more about me, because I don't really live stream that much, or like ever. So catching me in a live stream is like really, really hard. So at least with the Q&A videos, you guys would have some idea of what I am off screen. I mean, we already have the Discord server for that, but I want you guys to be able to see a little bit of what I'm like off of review videos, off script or whatever. And to be honest, I don't feel like script me is the same as just actual me, which is like right now. And again, this lets you know a little bit more about me. There will obviously be some things that I won't mention, but certain things I can go more in detail with. But I need to say once again, thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers, because otherwise I couldn't do this Q&A video. It means a lot that 1,000 people are willing to watch the content that I put out and have not gotten tired of it yet, especially with the lore stuff. I'm glad that everyone's taking that stuff well, but regardless, until next video, take care.